Welcome to Go Solo Live.
Don't you mean go solo live? Have you ever been asked, why on earth would you travel alone? Go Solo Live not only answers that question, but celebrates life as a midlife solo traveler. This is a safe place for women to come together to reminisce about their travels, encourage others to travel, and to dig into the real lessons learned from these journeys. Now join Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel as she and her guests share stories of the solo travelers of midlife women.
Welcome to Go Solo Live. This is Jennifer with Transform Via Travel. We are in our special season of our podcast, and now I'd like to introduce Dr. Mary TravelbesT.
Hi there. I am Dr. Mary TravelbesT, and I wanted to talk to you today because I've been inspired to create a community for women who travel and for those women who want to travel and would love to travel more. Especially for those women who would love to travel but want to go independently. They want to go on their own trips. So let's get going. So Dr. Mary TravelbesT first got started as a published author on travel in 1993 when she published the world's first guide to independent travel. After selling more than 10,000 of these books and audio cassette CDs and having a very successful web presence, now I'd like to take this out to you, speaking one-on-one on a regular basis. So please join me through this journey, which began more than 25 years ago and continues today. My real name doesn't really sound travel-ish. It is Mary Beth McCabe, and my daughter, Tina Shubat, will also be taking on the role of Dr. TravelbesT in the future. I'm here to talk about why you travel. And there's many reasons for that, but I'd like to find out and help you find out why it is you travel. Is it semi-independent? Are you going on a cruise and then taking a trip after that? Are you going to the next town or the next state or a country that's nearby? So I'm going to guide you, I'm going to answer questions, and I'm going to try to help you find your place in the world. And this is going to help give you power over your life. It will build your confidence and it will challenge you in many ways. So here we go. One of the things I wanted to do was to answer a question. I'm happy to respond to the questions that you have. Be sure you send me your questions. And here's one. It says, I'm recently divorced and I want to travel. Where do I start? And how do I keep going on my own? Well, thank you for asking. This time of your life is probably one of the most exciting times. It's all how you look at it. You want to travel? I recommend you start small with trips that are comfortable to you. If you haven't been traveling, start small by going out on a local trip somewhere that you haven't been before, but within maybe a 10 to 15 mile distance from your home. And make a regular pace at that. So maybe every Saturday you go out and drive 15 miles and you explore what you're seeing out there. You might not even have a destination in mind because sometimes that can be one of the best experiences. So you've had a change in your life and now you are ready to make a difference. So where do you start? It's with a 15-mile journey. And from there, I would get a map and I would circle a 30-mile journey. And so maybe in month 2, you begin a larger journey. And maybe in month 3, you visit the next state. And then how do you sustain that? How do you keep going on your own, as you've asked? Adventuring can be a very lonely journey if you look at it that way. Now, if you drive these 15, 30, or to the next state, you get out of the car or you get out of the vehicle, whatever you're in, and go and talk to people. Just try it. Just go out there and smile. And you have nothing to lose. You have only things to gain. You can go and start today. So I really want you to think of it as a muscle. This muscle, you would go to the gym and work out every week. Instead, you're working out your travel muscle. With your recent change in life, you've got opportunity. And so what will happen is your whole viewpoint will see a big change. You will start to become a really interesting person, not that you weren't before, but you'll have some new perspectives. And the life that you gain from this travel will support other areas of your life too. You'll be having more things to talk about while you're at work, when you're with your friends or with your children. And your adventures will become part of your lifetime journey and stories, and you'll make up some great stories. And they'll be true to some point if you want them to be. Or you could make up even more fun stories and share those. Enjoy what you're doing. When I say keep going on your own, have some safety precautions in mind. And if you're going overnight, you'll certainly need some experience in packing a bag. When you are on the trip, you'll find certain ways that you've got to, for your health and for your safety, you'll be protecting. Stay with us on this journey. Dr. TravelbesT here. I want to share my experience with you, and I want to help you get there. So let's talk a little bit about packing. I mentioned that earlier. So we're getting into the segment about how to. Light packing saves energy and time. Let me say that again. Light packing saves energy and time. If you are packing a suitcase, my recommendation is to start with a small suitcase and only pack half of it of things that you are going to need. The other half of that suitcase can be packed with things that you want to give away while you're on your trip. What kinds of things might you want to give away? You can go through your house, go through your apartment, go through your room and say, I haven't used this in a while. It could be something from your hometown that someone from the new town will appreciate. So light packing will make your enjoyable trip so much more fun. I often go with just a small backpack if I'm traveling for a weekend. You can always do laundry when you're going for a longer trip, and you can always buy things at your destination if you need them. I try to carry the very minimum. Your medications, any types of makeup that you need, cosmetics like creams or things like that. Yes, you're definitely going to need those because those are hard to replace or hard to buy. You can always get things like socks and underwear and a toothbrush in just about any place you go to. So if you do forget something, you're still going to be okay. Let's talk again about why you should go. We mentioned that it would build your confidence. We mentioned that it would make you a more interesting person, and it would give you more power over your life. So one of the things that you can begin to say is yes. Think of that word. If someone says to you, are you going someplace? Yes. Are you interested in travel? Yes. Keep on saying yes. You'll be enjoying more life. You'll be becoming more innovative. You'll be exploring more. Yourself will be more actualized. You're going to have more pleasure. And face your fear of going alone. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I can do this. Build up your own confidence. There is an emotional appeal to that. There's definitely an emotional struggle to doing that. So again, why you should go. So we've covered things like what is independent travel. We've talked about packing. We've talked about why you should go. I want to talk about meeting people briefly. I mentioned how it's easy to just walk up to someone and say something. Well, maybe for some of you it is. For those of you who are unsure about what to say, sometimes all you need to do is smile. And sometimes the other person will make the first move. But if that doesn't happen, just try to say something about the weather or try to say something about the transportation you've just come from or ask a question. That's often one of the best things to do is ask a question that's really simple, like, have you been here before? Do you know any good places around here? Have you got a recommendation for something that I should do? And just kind of open up the conversation. Of course, be careful. Use your common sense. Use your good judgment. Of course, people that look like you are going to be the most likely that you speak with, but don't be afraid to speak to a child or speak to an older person if you feel that they are agreeable to a conversation. So you'll learn a lesson when you meet somebody, because all of a sudden you're going to feel more comfortable to say hi to the next person. It definitely is like a snowball, and it builds confidence as it rolls down the hill. So what to say is going to depend somewhat on you as a person. What kind of a thing do you like to talk about? I've traveled near and far. Since I was a teenager, I've been traveling solo. I'll tell you about the first time I traveled solo. I was really, really afraid. And that's what gives me confidence, and that you will find the way to make your trips great. So here's the story. I was 15 years old. I had just moved from New York to Chicago, and that was my first airline trip. My second airline trip was 3 months later, and I flew back to visit my friends in New York. So I bought my plane ticket, and my father dropped me off at O'Hare Airport, then the busiest airport in the world. And as I got out of the car, I thought he was going to accompany me into the airport, but I was wrong. And so I thank you, Dad, for giving me that shot in the arm and just got out there and did it. That first step was the hardest, though. The first step, getting out of the car, I can still see my foot going onto the pavement and getting into the airport and walking up to the desk and getting my ticket and my boarding pass. And from then on, I felt empowered. I felt that I could do just about anything I needed to do. I got into the airplane. I landed in New York. I got a taxi and I went to my first destination. I was gone for 3 weeks. And I really don't think I even called home once because long distance charges were high back then. So I'll just say that travel experience as a youngster really helped me to build the travel experiences that I've had. 25 years ago, I published after traveling to every continent except for Antarctica alone. Those experiences are just worth so much. I would rather have these experiences than any stuff. And if you're like me and you are excited about travel, I'd really like to hear what's on your bucket list. I've got so many places on my bucket list, places that I want to go back to, like Ireland and New Zealand and Australia. Those were some of my favorite places. And I would like to go to many places for the first time. For example, India and Egypt and some of the other places that are just a dream right now, that I believe will keep enhancing my experience and allow me to continue to share stories of travel as Dr. Mary TravelbesT. So let me get to another question. I'm invited to Spain to visit friends, but don't want to go alone. Any advice for me? I want to be with someone to enjoy the trip. Thank you for your question. So let me answer that by saying I understand why you want to be with somebody on the trip. And if you have somebody to go with and you're all set to go, then by all means do that. But don't let not having somebody to go with keep you from getting on the trip and going. So if you've got a destination in mind and you've got the wherewithal to do it, there's no reason why you can't go alone. There's no reason other than your fear of being alone. And it's only going to be for a few hours. You may be alone for a part of the time, but you could bring a book with you. And you could watch a movie on the plane, and you could be looking out the window. Those things you would do even if you were with somebody, right? So these things you can do alone and have just as good of a time. If you are staying home because you don't have someone to go with, then let's talk, okay? If you think that your trip will only be a satisfactory trip with somebody else, I'd like you to think again. I'd like you to really step into that place where you have kept yourself back and you don't want to keep yourself back anymore. So to the person who sent this question in, go visit Spain. Go visit your friends in Spain. It'll just be a few hours between now and when you arrive, when you'll be meeting other people and you may never see them again. That's okay. Or maybe you're going to a place where you don't have any friends, but you'll make friends there. There's lots of opportunities to meet people once you get there. Now, Dr. Mary TravelbesT hasn't always had this great life of travel. I want to make sure you know I've had my missteps. I'll tell you a quick story that just happened a few months ago. It's right there in my mind. I was on a plane going from Taipei to Bangkok, Thai Airlines. And I'm comfortable in my seat. I've got my headset on. I'm listening to some music. I am about to have my first drink that they just brought me, and it happened to be tomato juice. So I took my drink, and right away, I spilled it all over myself. I mean, tomato juice all over. So the first shock was cold. Second shock was embarrassment. Third shock was, this stinks. I am a smelly mess. What am I going to do? So I got up and went to the restroom, and I had a change of clothes with me, which I would highly recommend you do. So I changed my clothes and came out after washing myself up as best I could in the little bathroom and, was totally embarrassed when I saw the hostess and she saw what had happened. And I tried to take another seat. But sure enough, the flight attendant came out with a new cushion from the back. So I could go back into my old seat in my fresh clothes and with a new cushion for my seat. And the whole 3.5-hour trip was delightful. So all I'm saying is missteps happen and shake them off, move on, get yourself comfortable and don't look back. Okay? Just look forward. I've lost things along the way. Sometimes you can't replace things you've lost. There's some sadness in that. And myself, I have been lost. So how do you deal with being lost, right? Let me give an example of when I was lost. I was riding a bicycle in Shanghai. And this was 1988. So back then, there really weren't all the skyscrapers you see today. But I had my maps with me, and I felt very confident as I headed out of town. And I got to some of the farm areas within about 10 minutes. It was really, really nice. So I came back into town, and sure enough, I got lost. There were bridges where I don't remember them. I literally was going in circles. How do you ask for directions in China when you're on a bicycle and it's getting dark? It's rush hour. There's no policeman around. I had to dig deep. And I want you to think about how you would do this. How would you go and build within your confidence to get to where you wanted to go? Now, everybody's got their own path. Everybody's got their own plan. But what I did was I just told myself, Mary Beth, you can do this. You can figure this out. You made it all the way here to China on your own. You've been traveling now for several weeks and you can do this. And how can you find the Peace Hotel, which is what my destination was? And then I realized the name of the hotel was called Peace. And so I started flashing the peace sign while I was on the bicycle. I flashed it to a few different people. And finally, somebody understood what I was looking for through sign language. And so they gave me the sign to follow them. And I did. And it was about 2.5 blocks away that we found the Peace Hotel. And I thanked them as best I could in my broken Chinese. I really didn't speak any, and I can't hardly remember any either. But I remember the feeling of being able to help myself. When times are tough and there's nobody else out there, you will build so much confidence in your travels. So I really encourage you to ask for directions if you need them. Dig within yourself first to know what to ask and who to ask. And then just go for it because you will figure it out. I'm very sure about that. So this is Dr. Mary TravelbesT, and I am looking forward to hearing from you with your questions and answering those. Please look me up on all of the social media and websites, drmarytravelbest.com. I'm here to help you travel. I'm here to help you with your bucket list, and especially if you haven't traveled independently, I'm here to help you make that trip. Thank you so much and have a great trip.